What is up, everybody? It's another Thursday, so you know what that means. It's another episode of InfoSec Unplugged. I'm your humble host, Davin Jackson. Thank you for joining. I know you could be anywhere on this busy Thursday, but you're here with me, and I greatly appreciate it. So before we get into the introduction of the guest, I have, a couple show notes I want to do. First of all, this show is always sponsored by Udemy. Udemy is an online training platform over 100,000 courses where you can learn just about anything. I can go down the whole list from, how to build a business, how to create a course, how to get started in cybersecurity, how to bake a cake, whatever it is you want to do. Udemy has a course there. They're always on sale, and I'm pretty sure there's a sale going on right now. So make sure you go check them out and grab some courses and, step your game up. Next, I want to thank Webroot. Webroot is an open text company, cybersecurity application that protects your computer from viruses and just the dangers of the internet. It's easy to use, easy to set up. It's very lightweight, doesn't bog down your computer like some other antiviruses. I personally use Webroot and I love it. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend anything that I don't use on a regular basis. So go check them out as well. And finally, once again, this episode has been blessed and sponsored by HailBytes. HailBytes is a cybersecurity company ran by just a team of great people over there. They have their newest product, Sherpa. Sherpa is an online training platform that trains your team how to exploit and protect against very popular application security vulnerabilities, and you can get spun up in minutes with their AWS platform. So please go check them out, and we'll be talking about them a lot more later on in the show. So with that, again, I want to welcome you guys to another episode, and thank you for joining me. My guest this week is actually someone who I've come to know over the last few months. I consider him to be, a fellow hacker, and actually he's a good person and a friend of mine. When I first was trying to step my game up and get myself out there a little bit more, he was one of the first people to invite me onto his platform. And we talked about a lot of things, including, why you shouldn't test in production. I'm pretty sure we'll trade some stories there. Great guy, great show. And he had a really great info and introduction for me. And I kind of feel bad because I don't have like that super epic introduction like he did for me when I did his show. But nonetheless, he's agreed to come on the show and, kick it with me for a little bit. So ladies and gentlemen, everyone in the chat, please welcome Cody, a.k.a. CW InfoSec.
Howdy, everybody.
What's going on? Let me just make sure. Why is it not working? Hold on 1 second. I can't get you on screen. There we go. That's better. See, the dangers of live streaming. So, again, thank you for joining, sir. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really, really grateful that you presented this opportunity with me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh no, absolutely. I told you I had to get it set up the right way. So, and like I said, I just apologize. I didn't have the epic intro like you did for me when I did your show. But like I said, I'm familiar with you. I'm pretty sure some people in the chat are familiar with you. But for those who don't know, why don't you go ahead and just kind of give an introduction on who you are?
So I'm Cody Winkler. I'm relatively new to professional InfoSec, but I've been a self-learner since I was 16. And it took me on a wild journey through the Air Force to now working for a fintech company in Missouri and doing exactly what I wanted to do these days. Like sometimes you'll wake up like during a job and you'll be like, it's whatever. But since doing Red Team last year, I have not woken up a single day and been like, nah, I'm not about this. I have woken up every day and I was like, yes, I am all about this. Let's go. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Nice. And it's a beautiful thing when you kind of wake up like happy and ready to go. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the highs and the lows. But first, so you talked about being Air Force. So enlisted?
Yep. I got out at E5. I thought about staying in, but that just wasn't in the cards for me.
Yep. So and now you did cyber. Actually, let me go ahead. Let me rewind it first before we start going into it. So why don't you just kind of give your origin story on how you got started and how you got into tech?
This is going to sound completely insane for probably everyone. So, um, I originally got into computing by learning Visual Basic 6. So I started off just like totally innocent with it. And then after a while, I really liked the way that Windows Vista looked. So I downloaded some random software on my mom's PC to make XP look more like Vista. And so that was backdoored. And then the people running the botnet. So I'll tell you the story later about how I came to find this out. But the people running the botnet for that software package completely messed up my mom's PC. And naturally, she was very angry about it. So
Naturally.
That led me to having to fix it. And I didn't know anything about computers back then. So um, just from the specific files that were deleted was what led me to a post on a forum called Evil Zone. And Evil Zone was old, I would actually say black hat, very much black hat, but there was a lot of industry professionals there too. But so it led me to Evil Zone, and then through Evil Zone is just the longest never-ending rabbit hole that I've ever been on.
I think I remember. I want to say I remember. Was it Evil Zone? But I didn't. I wasn't looking at it from that standpoint. I think I stumbled across it by accident. You know, dangers. You start getting in like AOL Instant Messenger chats, and I might be showing my age with the AOL Instant Messenger reference. But you start getting into those, and people start talking about doing certain things, and the next thing you know, you click a couple of links, and you're like, "What is going on here?" But like you, I actually didn't want to go any further because that would piss my mother off, and that was like the very first computer we had, and I know how hard she worked to get it, and I did not feel like dying. So,
Nobody does.
right. So okay. So you got started there, and then I guess that that intrigue or that interest grew. Now, did you go when you went into the military? You went into the military for tech and cyber, or did you go for something else? Because see, I was a dummy and I went in for aircraft maintenance, and then got out and realized that I couldn't do anything in the civilian world because there were no F-16s or F-117s. So
So the both the Army and the Marine Corps almost got me on this. So I scored extremely well in electronics on my ASVAB, but like complete dog shit and everything else. So when some dude walks in with a 90, in electronics, and then they're not that great in everything else. So what was recommended to me by the recruiter was EOD, and I had absolutely no idea what it stood for. So through a series of troublemaking, I ended up living with my uncle in Indianapolis, who was a Navy recruiter, and he tried talking me into going through the recruitment process again. So I walked into the Marine Corps office because I just wanted to get out. I just wanted to be gone as soon as possible.
yep.
And so I went into the Marine Corps office, and they were like, "Yeah, just transfer your ASVAB over. We'll get you into the Middle East, do an EOD." I was like, "Wait a minute, what did you just say?" "Yeah, you'll be defusing bombs in no time. We got lots of them." That was 2010 or so, and I was like, "Hey, I have to go to the bathroom. Let me be right back." And I walked right across the hall to the Air Force office, and I was like, "Hey, you got any computer jobs?" And he was like, "Yep." I was like, "How soon can I be gone?" He was like, 2 or 3 months. So I was like, "Sign me up. Let's go."
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I bet when you learned what EOD was, it was like, wait. So I have to go do what, where, and deal with what?
The back door was closed, so to speak.
Yeah, seriously. So, all right. So with you being prior military, I'm looking for the question here. Oh, I guess I must have deleted it. Oh, here you go. Obviously, I think for you, it It probably does. But do you think the overall military experience helped you once you got out into the civilian world, into tech? Now, not just talking about the skills you learned from being in tech, but just like, for example, like I obviously, I mean, it was tech like, but I didn't really deal with computers unless it was like writing up the reports on the aircraft. But I think the certain mindset that the military teaches you definitely helped me. So I wanted to get your take on that.
It helped me significantly. There are three. Okay, so a combo of two organizations. One of them is the Air Force. Like the three most influential, I guess, external sources of major impacts in my life. And so one would be the United States Air Force. The other would be offensive security, and then the third is one of my best friends, Vance. And without those three, I would probably be in my hometown, maybe working at McDonald's, not doing anything with my life. Probably have like 8 DUIs under my belt by this point. You know, like
Yep.
the Air Force got rid of a lot of nastiness that I grew up with, and in its place put being a man, because I didn't have. So like I know who my dad is, and he was in my life, just not to the extent where I would call him dad. So
Yep.
I didn't have that kind of support when I was growing up, and the Air Force gave it to me. And through that, I would not be the person that I am today without the Air Force.
Right. Right. Nice. So, okay. So now you did your what'd you do? 4 or 6?
6.5. Yep.
Okay. So you did your 6.5, and then you decided you wanted to kind of get out and do the civilian life. Was that transition difficult for you? You know, breaking away from the structure of of the military and then getting into transitioning into the civilian world.
So from military to civilian, we're specifically just talking like just behavior on the job. Yes, that was a rude awakening for me. So I actually still do have a really bad potty mouth, and so that's.
I think the military enhances it though. Like I
Yeah.
had one too. I had one too, and then like I remember by the time I got out of tech school, like it was over 9,000.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah. So on that note, yes, the transition was definitely difficult, because you go from being a ruffian to being somebody that has to both talk with other important people in the company, but also to be like a good ambassador for the company. Because like the last thing you want is anybody interacting with a customer and being like, "Yeah, bro, let's go."
yep, yeah. I trust me, I know. So all right, so before we get into more, I have to do my little commercial break. I have commercials now. So we're gonna get into our ad sponsor for this week's episode, which is again HailBytes and their product Security Sherpa. But when we come back, I'm gonna be talking to Cody about the challenges he faces. What's it like to be a day of life of security engineer? Favorite pen testing techniques or vectors and more. So y'all just sit tight and we will get to this commercial. So let's do it. Oh, see, I keep messing up. I have to bring it up here. Again, the fun of live streaming. So, like I said, we're gonna get to our sponsor, and then when we get back, I'll have more for Cody, and we're gonna talk shop. So sit tight. What's up, everybody? It's DJX here from Alpha Cybersecurity and InfoSec Unplugged, and I'm here today to talk to you about my friends over at HailBytes. HailBytes is a cybersecurity firm that provides on-demand security, infrastructure, and awareness training to companies and businesses of all sizes. Their mission is to turn your employees into cybersecurity warriors and to protect your organizations from the most common and most damaging cyber attacks. They achieve this in many ways. Some of them are their online security training courses, phishing simulations, and their newest product, Security Sherpa. Security Sherpa is an online training environment that trains your team to build secure applications by giving them first-hand experience of real-world vulnerabilities. Not only will you learn about what makes them vulnerable, you'll also learn how to exploit them and how attack vectors work in the real world. The training modules range from beginner to seasoned professional with modules like Capture the Flag, Open Floor, and even tournaments where teams can compete against one another. Security Sherpa can be used to assess, improve, and report on application security skills across your team without the need for long courses. Best of all, it's powered by AWS, so you can start your training for one or several team members within minutes. If you think Security Sherpa is right for your team, just click the link below in the description and you can try it free for 14 days. Just click the link and you'll get started right away. Again, this is DJax from Alpha Cybersecurity and InfoSec Unplugged telling you to go check out HailBytes and check out their new product, Security Sherpa. Take care. All right. So again, thank you to our sponsor, HailBytes and Security Sherpa. I put the link in the chat if you want to check it out. The link is right here. And again, it is a 14-day free trial. So you can check it out and look at some of the popular attack vectors that are used in applications today. So please go check it out. It's a great product. And like I said, anytime you click any of the links in the description or click the links in the chat, it does go back to help supporting the show and the podcast and everything that I got going on here. So I appreciate you guys for everything that you're doing. Also, I want to just give a quick shout out to my pack. You guys, I love y'all. I love everything that y'all do with the support and everything showing up every week. So let's get to a couple of them. I did display them earlier, but we have Kay says hello. Ladera Jackson says, hey, everyone. Professor Black Ops, friend of the show, says, I love the intro. Another friend of the show, Anonymous, says, may the true cloud rise above us with partly cloudy but also sunny skies.
These Branchagerians are absolutely insane, by the way.
What happened?
They have like a whole cult. They have like a whole website and everything.
Really?
Yeah, there's like upwards of like 20 of these people. They're absolutely insane.
So my wife also says again, welcome. Professor Black Ops says, shout out to Indy. He's also a fellow Indy native.
Shout out to you, Professor. Shout out to thePack, as a matter of fact.
Yes. Al Minigan says, what's going on? Let's see. Scissor Main says, I find the transitions in between speaking dizzying. I apologize for that. Nothing I can really do about that. I want people to kind of, focus on what Cody's talking about or whoever the guest is. Kalila Scott, another friend of the show, says, hi, everyone. And we have Lamel asking, what headphones are you using?
I have Arctis 7s by SteelSeries.
Nice. Ty says, hey, fam, what's going on, Ty? Then A-Rob, the admin, says, hey, everyone. And then Kalila also says she just moved from Indy. So shout out to Indy. Kalila, I hope, everything's going well and, you're getting yourself settled. And Infinite Logins, Harley, what's going on? Says, what's up, my guys? What's going on, Harley? If you guys haven't, please go check him out. Like I said, everything that he's doing with the pick your own path pen testing stuff, I freaking love it. So, all right. So, Cody, so you talked about, growing up and, getting into the military, coming out, some of the transitions. Now, strictly from just after that, and you got into, you're getting into tech or you decided you wanted to, move on with your career. What challenges have you faced, getting in or that you still face to this day?
I would say the biggest thing that holds me back is a lack of a degree at this point. Nobody would look at me almost at all as I was getting out. There were a good number of companies that were interested, but that definitely not at the level that I wanted to be at. So I know a guy who knows people that work at my current place of employment, and he was one of my first supervisors in the Air Force. So I'm big on networking. It's like you never know what role someone's going to play in your life. Mm-hmm. And if you grew up like super introverted like myself, it's really, really difficult to make friends, like especially as an adult. But
talk about it. Yep.
Everybody wants, you approach someone, you're just like, hey, I like InfoSec too. Let's talk. Nobody's going to be like, no, thanks. Nobody's going to do that.
Well, it's funny because, like my wife says it all the time. Like I'll sit back somewhere quiet, and then as soon as someone starts talking cybersecurity, it's like she's like my ears perk up, and then it's like you can't get me to shut up. Uh, but it's interesting that you said one of the challenges you face is the fact that you don't have a degree. So I'm assuming you have certifications, right?
Oh yes, yes.
Okay. So now when you're are you, so you're talking about even with the certifications and the credentials that you do have, it's still kind of a hassle just, getting in there because what, the companies are still requiring degrees?
Well, I mean, I'm fine. I love where I currently work, but
Yeah.
when I was looking at other companies fresh out of the Air Force,
Yeah.
it was very strange. Either people loved me and the skills that I could bring, or they didn't want anything to do with me because I very simply didn't have a degree and they weren't interested,
Yeah.
or they were in like a weird position where they were kind of interested, but they just didn't show a lot of, I guess, enthusiasm about it.
Right. Yeah, it's that stupid ass loop of you don't have the experience to get a job, but you need a job to get the experience. And yeah, it so yeah, fine. I think the difficulty is always finding that first one. And I mean, thankfully you did, you got in and you made your connections. And to your point about the networking, like it's funny that you should say that because I was the opposite. Like I didn't start networking until probably about the time I started tweeting out and you reached out to me to do the show, to do your show. But like I was so introverted that I was like, you know what, no. And then when I got into cyber, and of course the first thing they tell you is find a mentor. And I reached out to like 25 people, right? And I did the whole spiel of, this is what I'm trying to get into, this is what I'm doing, this is what I have done, to show that I'm not just looking for someone to, carry me. And I got no responses. Either I got no responses or it was just like, nah, I'm busy. And just kind of got, pushed off to the side. And after that, it was just kind of like, all right, screw all of y'all. I'm just going to do my own thing. But I'm starting to learn now, especially in the last year or two, that yeah, that was a big mistake, I think, and that probably set me back in my career progression because eventually the networking thing does definitely help. So in speaking about career progression and stuff like that, I think you would be a perfect example to speak to this. I mean, you talked about having the certifications and kind of building up. So what would you say has been the best thing for you to, to progress in your career, education wise, skill wise, whatever?
So this ties back into offensive security being a major influencer in my life. So after getting the OSCP, I imagine. Ooh, I don't know if I want to do that hot take. That might piss a lot of people off.
Hey,
Okay, you know what?
we piss people off all the time. Go for it if you feel up to it.
Okay,
Let's not piss off employers. But
so recruiters to me on LinkedIn after OSCP, I imagine is very similar to being any female literally anywhere on the planet at any time of the day. It's like non-stop attention. Like
mm, mm.
it's complete game changer for me. Like nobody looked at me before. Now it's almost like golden ticket time.
I get the reference. So and it's not and just full disclosure, he's not saying it in a negative way. He's saying honestly, it can get frustrating, but it's still never to that level. But
Yep.
anyway, so see, there you go. I got your back. So but yeah, it's like once you get that, it's something about that OSCP that everybody just seems like is like the holy grail, right? Um, where companies I've seen companies turn down people who have been more than qualified just because they don't have that certification, or they don't believe in getting the certifications. It's just it can be real stupid at times. And in dealing with dealing with the OSCP myself, like, I talked about it. Like I failed it my first time around. And it was kind of like, oh, well, it's great that you have all this stuff going on with you, but you just, you don't have that certification. And I think the OSCP or certifications in general are a great way to show that you have the knowledge and the skill set. But I don't think that should be like the end all be all. Like I definitely think that there should be some type of technical thing, because you have people who are just really great at taking certifications or doing CTFs, but you put them in a real environment and they don't know what they're doing,
Yep.
and vice versa. I have pen tested and exploited companies, Fortune 500 companies, whatever, that were easier than some of the labs and in the PWK. So I think it's just about the journey, and what did you get out of it? And yes, if you pass it, that's great. Let's see. Wait, hold on. So Kalila says the chicks were about to enter the chat. So, see, that's it wasn't anything negative. He was just saying, he was equating, comparing the two, and it's still not the same. But anyway, all right. So you talked about getting the OSCP and stuff like that. And now you work as, I believe you said you work now as a security engineer, correct?
Yep.
So for those who don't know, why don't you just kind of go in explain like the day in the life of a security engineer? It could be the fun stuff, not all the office work and politics.
Yeah, so that's the title that they gave me because my coworkers couldn't get Red Team Operator approved as a title. We wanted something really cool. We couldn't get Offensive Security Engineer either, so now we're just Network Security Engineers at just absurd, weird title levels. And I don't know. I've had like a really big change in mindset on that. Because, security, there's both sides to it, right? So I guess in a way, it kind of makes sense to have your red team, be under the network security engineer umbrella title. But yeah, so that's what I actually do as a network security engineer, strictly red team and purple team engagements. So we'll do like some research projects on the side too, but those two are like the bulk of our workflow.
All right. So for some of the viewers, right? When you say red teaming, because red team can consist of a lot of just offensive security testing and stuff like that, and then red teaming is can sometimes not be completely different, but actual red team engagement is a lot more in depth, and if you ask me, a lot more fun than just a regular pen testing. I equate it to like where people sometimes say vulnerability assessments and pen testing are the same thing, and they're not. And people say pen testing and red teaming are the same thing, and it's not. So for those who don't know, just kind of go into the difference of what you do in a red team engagement versus a regular pen test.
So with a penetration test, the goal is to kind of build like a snapshot of the organization's security posture, between start date and end date. And you really want to cast like as much and far and wide as you can in your enumeration, so that you identify all of the problems and as many of those problems as you can. But beyond that, you also want to demonstrate impact, which is where penetration testing gets outside of the realm of just doing regular vulnerability assessments.
Right.
So with a red team, there's a lot of overlap, and I've taken direction from Morten Schenk on how I understand red teaming. And Morten Schenk is a content developer for offensive security, and so what makes a red team is when a blue team is actively looking for you. So there's some similar things. We use a lot of very similar tools for that one would use in penetration testing, but not getting caught is a prime concern with us. If we come across vulns that aren't really usable, we might not bring it up. We might. It just depends. Depends on how much value that vuln has to our goals, and that's another key piece of a red team is that you need specific goals going into it. Otherwise, it's going to be like a very sloppy looking pen test that the blue team just happens to be looking for you on.
Right.
But that's the goal. Go in undetected, grab the crown jewels, get out.
Right. And I think for me, when I've been on red team engagements, it's it's a broader scope, right? Like nothing is off limits. I mean, obviously you can't, do anything that would cause like a denial of service condition. But on a red team engagement, social engineering is in play. Sometimes physical security is in play. And it's a lot longer than just a snapshot in time. So traditionally with pen tests might be anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, right? You might have a 1 or 2 week engagement and then another week to write the report and do the debriefing and stuff like that. And then if there's remediation and stuff like that, you give them some time to remediate and then you come back and do like a quick retest on the findings. Um, but with a red team engagement, like the ones that I've done in the past, it was like the night before, a couple days before, you're scoping out the building, you're figuring this out, you're looking up stuff, you're doing your OSINT and your recon on potential targets. I've seen some where they're trying to follow people and try to clone key cards and stuff like that. It's like I said, it's the whole it's the whole thing. It's the whole gambit of security in a nutshell. Um, and like I said, and yes, pen testing is a major part of it. But just like how a vulnerability assessment is a part of penetration testing is a part of the whole red team engagement. So, like I said, I love doing the red team and stuff. And like I said, I would love to get back to that at some point. But in your journey of penetration testing and red teaming and stuff like that, obviously, going and getting the OSCP and getting the certifications and stuff, you've been exposed to a lot of different types of penetration testing, right? So there's your infrastructure penetration testing or network penetration testing. There's your web application penetration testing. There's mobile. There's Wi-Fi. Now there's APIs becoming a lot more popular in its own separate thing, which I've been working on myself. But what is your favorite? What is your favorite type of pen test? Your favorite target?
It's a difficult one to answer because I like all of it. Okay, so to make that easy on me, okay, if I had to choose one and I could never do any other type of assessment ever again, I think I would have the most life fulfillment doing web application testing after that.
Yeah.
I've always had a soft spot for web, even though I'm not very good at it, but I've always had a really soft spot for web. One of the first tutorials I ever saw was for SQL injection. So, the internet was a different place 10 years ago. It was tested against a security firm that had posted a blog about how to defend against SQL injection. Mm-hmm. So things probably aren't going to happen like that anymore. You got to choose your resources carefully.
Right.
But yeah, definitely web app.
Yeah. I think I would agree. Like I said, obviously when you first get started, you're taught on infrastructure and network pen testing. And I was actually kind of terrified to get into web app just because it was just so different from what I had worked so hard at to learn with the network and infrastructure penetration testing. And then once I kind of got into it and I was like, okay, so how do you test for cross-site scripting? How do you find a vulnerability for cross-site request forgery, SQL injection and stuff like that? And then once you kind of understand, okay, there's certain things to look for, certain parameters in a URL or whatever, it's like, oh, this isn't too bad. And then to your point, web app pen testing opens up so many more things. Again, like for example, like I was just talking about the API stuff, like you test a web app and then you realize there's an API and now you're in that whole realm of pen testing. So you went from, okay, I started here, did some SQL injection or whatever, or I gained access to some endpoints here. Now look, oh, there's an API here. And I think even though infrastructure and network testing will always be popular as long as is a Windows and Active Directory environment, because that's something that came up honestly. I mean, it was Active Directory pen testing was there, but when I got started, it wasn't like no one really talked about it, and now it's becoming more well. It's more popular now, so it's like to go back and learn it all. But yeah, I definitely think that yeah, web app is just here to stay, and definitely something to take a look at. And I think it also, to your point about back to your point about career progression, that will definitely help you get jobs if the more different types of pen testing so yeah, it's great to know the network pen testing stuff, but if you say, hey, I'm really good at web app, that's gonna pique a lot of people's interest as well.
Absolutely.
So when now to that point about learning the different type of things, one of the things that I constantly tell people all the time is that hacking and penetration testing um, never gets boring. However, it does require a lot of work, a lot of reading, a lot of learning, and dare I say, you actually have to have like a passion for learning. If you really want to excel in this field, because you may exploit something today that may not work tomorrow because they're always patching. And if you don't stay up on things, you get complacent, or you become obsolete. So I know people are tired of hearing it from me, but why don't you talk about the passion for learning and stuff like that, and why that's necessary in this field?
When I was growing up, I really didn't apply myself in school at all. And it took me a really long time to actually appreciate the value in learning, because ironically, they don't teach you the value of learning in school. You got to figure that out on your own. So I would say, believe it or not, yeah, the PWK journey for me started 8 years before I actually passed the exam. And so if it hadn't been for OSCP, I'm not even sure I would even be in this field, to be honest. It started off as like oh, that would be kind of cool to have. Let me study and just never stop studying because I don't know if I'm good enough for this cert. Let me just study my freaking behind off and see if I float when I jump into the deep end.
Yep. And that's definitely one where you sink or swim. What I like, and again, I'm not without breaking NDAs or getting in trouble from offensive security. What I like about that course is actually something that a lot of people complain about with that course. And it's like, oh, well, they just kind of go through it, and then it's like, but there's so much that you have to figure out on your own. And I think that's the beauty of it, because one of the things that you have to do as a pen tester is utilize the hell out of Google, right? You have to know how to navigate through Google, Shodan, Bing, DuckDuckGo, whatever your search platform is. You have to be able to understand that and figure out that information just like that. And sometimes, yeah, it can get frustrating when you're trying to figure something out and you can't find it. And I think that's where the forums and the moderators and stuff like that come in handy. But to me, I think that's, like I said, that's the whole beauty. That's one of the things that's the beauty of that course, is that it's a part of the journey. And that's why I said earlier, it's not, to me, even though the OSCP is major, like let's get that out of the way. Some people say, oh, it's an entry level cert or whatever. Bullshit. If you have that certification, doors open up for you. However, if you've taken that course and you've applied what you've learned from that course, right, and you apply it to what you're doing currently, because I wouldn't say it's an entry level certification at all. I would say it's somewhere you should. I usually tell people the progression for me is, or was, basic networking, so network plus, security plus, CEH, then came the Pen Test Plus, and then maybe the OSCP. But in between that gap between CEH and Pen Test Plus and Pen Test Plus and OSCP is a shit ton of hands-on labs, Vuln Hub, Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, stuff like that. And then the OSCP is there. So I would say OSCP is maybe, I would honestly say somewhere like beginner to mid-level, right? Or mid-level. Obviously not like expert or advanced. You know what I'm saying? Because then there's other certifications like your G pens and your different INE certs and stuff like that you can get more advanced in, or even the OSCE. But I think if you take the course and apply, because there's a lot of things like even just the methodology, the things that they teach you, if you can apply that, that's going to show in your work. And that's also going to get the attention of future employers or even your current employer who's going to say, man, you stepped it up a notch. Here's a raise, ideally. So,
I mean, that's a good segue, because there's times where it's tough to do self-study.
Yeah.
I suffer through it to this day, but that's the whole point with certifications, right? It's a way for you to kind of beeline yourself through all of the bad information that's out there if you were to do self-study, and just kind of catapult your way past all of the nonsense, right? That's so, I mean, and even then, I don't want to sound like I'm giving free advertising to Offensive Security on your show, so I just want to make that clear. I have a good relationship with them. I am not paid by them. I am not an employee, but I do have a good relationship with them. But I mean, it's other companies out there are doing great things with their own certs,
Yeah, no, yeah. Like I said, I think there's a lot of them that are doing some great stuff. Like I said, INE's doing some great stuff. CompTIA, the Pen Test Plus is doing some great. I like the Pen Test Plus. To shout out another content creator, the Cyber Mentor. Everything that he's doing over there, creating his own course material. There's definitely a lot of options out there. I just think, again, to me, it's about the journey and applying what you learn.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So we have a couple more questions, but like you asked me on my about my experiences on your show, which again, you guys got to go check that out about one of my stories. What are some hacking stories that you're allowed to talk about? Obviously, let's not break NDAs.
Yeah.
But you have any interesting hacking stories you want to share?
Oh yeah. Okay, I can't say what or where. The first major red team engagement, okay, kind of like high level how we got in. So 2 0 days right off the bat, and then those got patched. So I dropped the third one, and that, through a sequence of events, ended up getting us access. That's not the exciting part. The exciting part was the call that I had with the team that was involved in fixing that. So this dude, I don't want to name names. Someone from my employer's probably going to be watching. So I don't want to say anything rude about this guy. Okay. But it was hilarious. It was almost impossible for me to stop myself from laughing on this call. So this guy, this whole time, he thought that it wasn't a 0 day at all. He thought it was a bug that had already been known about and dealt with. So he thought that this wasn't even an issue. So we had demoed it to him, and on the call, he was like, yeah, I really don't see the issue here. So I was like, check this out. You can use the POC that I sent you right now and get by both of the other mitigations that you've already implemented. So he was like, yeah, I just don't see it. So I was like, I can show you right now. And he was like, okay, yeah, do it. So we had a little butting heads moment. And then I demoed this last 0 day, and he was like, this just doesn't make any sense. How did that happen? And I was like, there's no way this dude just said that, because this guy is a senior engineer and he's supposed to know exactly how to deal with situations like that. It was hard not to laugh, but through some guidance, we got through it.
Yeah, they some of those discussions that you have with the client tend to get real interesting because they always are on one. They're always like on the defensive side, right? So they're always like, "Oh well, okay, so you found a vulnerability, but it wasn't exploitable," or "Okay, so it was exploitable, but it doesn't show maximum impact." And then it's like, "Okay, so it showed impact, but just shut up," It's like, but and I was having a conversation with the coworker of mine, and he actually does like red and blue team stuff, and he's been on engagements on both sides. And he goes, "Yeah, man." He goes, "When you're doing like the pen test," he goes, "I've literally walked into a company as like the pen tester." He's like, "And they hate your guts and everything you say. Like you could say the sky is blue, and they're like, 'No, it does. No, it's not. Shut up. Go f yourself. Whatever.'" He goes, but then if you walk in as like the incident response guy or the forensics guy, like they're like, "Oh, would you like some coffee?" And it's like they're kissing your ass. He's like, it's two different worlds. Um, and it definitely, I've definitely been on one of those calls. I did one where I just like I sea surfed my way through the entire application, right? Like I did one cross-site request forgery, then I did another. Next thing I know, I did a by the time I did a third one, I was like admin. And how that one works, you have to base it, like you there's no just waiting for the assessment to end and writing the report. Like the assessment stops right there, and you call them and you have like a debrief call, and then they're actually remediating it while you're still on the assessment. So this way, you can write the report and say we did this, but they fixed it in the same week, whatever. And I remember their network guy couldn't fix it. He
Oh
just couldn't
no.
fix it. So I got this, like it was like Monday. It was like we did a kickoff meeting, and immediately I was like, "Oh, sea surf," and I went straight for it. By the way, make sure you do your recon first, right? But I saw it and I was like, it was just too pretty to not try. And I did, and then so Tuesday he spent all Tuesday trying to remediate it and just did not work, right? And then by Wednesday they were like, "It wasn't in scope." I'm like, yes, it was. No, it wasn't. Another note: when you do pen tests and stuff like that, there's two things you should always keep. If it's a physical pen test, you get out of jail free card. Keep it always right here in your top pocket. Um, but always keep a copy of the scope, because when they say it's not in scope, you're out of scope. No, 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 no. It says here in the email, right here. Here's the range. Here's the URLs. Oh, look, that URL is still in scope. So CYA, and I actually learned that from the military as well.
Big bold letters.
So, but yeah, definitely. So, all right. So we got into we talked about that in the story. So, um, outside, well, not outside of pen testing. It doesn't necessarily have to be outside of pen testing, but one of the things that I'm big on as I move on in my career and hopefully transition into something later on down the line in the teaching or mentoring thing, um, I want to start teaching like work life balance from like day one, right? Too many times we get into the field bright eyed, bushy tailed, just ready not only ready to work, but ready to kind of show our worth and get paid and whatever. And you burn yourself out within the first 6 months, right? So I think one of the things that needs to be taught more is I honestly feel like there should be something about work life balance in some of these curriculum. Not necessarily a testable question, but just even if it's like a few paragraphs in a couple chapters about taking that time, because I think that mental rest is crucial and also will help you improve later on if you're not burned out. And one of the things you can do with that is finding hobbies or something to do, and it could still be cybersecurity related. I wouldn't, whatever. But it's important that you do that. So what are some of your hobbies?
So YouTube is one of them. I like sharing my knowledge with the community around me. I like helping people get better at things that they want to do. I have one official mentee and a couple of unofficial ones, and it takes up a little bit of time. And super excited to see how their career turns out. And beyond that, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Nice.
And hey, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's an awesome stress relief, because like if you run into the asshole in the office, you're like, man, I want to choke that guy. You can actually do that at Jiu-Jitsu, and it's totally cool. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah, I
obviously can't do that in the office. Definitely
no.
don't ever do that.
Office violence is never necessary unless it's self-defense. All right, sorry, I'm but but no, seriously. Yeah, like I invested in a heavy bag, and that was my stress reliever. And then my gym got renovated, so now I have to go to a boxing gym. And with COVID and everything, that kind of threw some stuff off. But I'm getting back into it. And like I said, I'm actually working on certain things. I want to, get my kids involved. This way, it'll help me get more accountable as well. But I definitely think you should do things that are, stress relievers. So, hit a punching bag, go to a gym, go swimming, something that's going to exert energy, that's going to require you to exert energy. I used to just be like video games, but my consoles are collecting dust right now.
Mine too.
But a perfect segue into what you were talking about sharing your content. Um, you do have a YouTube channel. Like I said, we talked about it a couple times. I think you were probably, if not the first, one of the first platforms that I actually spoke on and kind of uh, got the nervousness out. But like I said, so talk about your channel, what the content you create over there, some of the stuff, because like I said, you got some cool shit over there as well.
The I don't even really remember why I started it. So I had done YouTube previously as a teenager. Small amount of success for the time, but I saw other content creators, and I saw the level of effort that they put into, especially their technical material. And I'm not talking about anyone specifically right now, but the very, very low effort put into technical videos. And once I saw that, I was like, come on, we can do better than this. Let's start putting out crazy content that people at the very least can like open their minds on different types of vulnerabilities and be like, no, I didn't know that you could use SQL injection in that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's kind of the goal, is to just make people realize that there's a lot more that you can do with cross-site scripting, or there's a lot more that you can do with things like that.
Yeah, I think, and that's what I said. Like, what I like about your channel, and to your point, yeah, because let's you don't want to say, I'm not going to say names either. You want to whatever. I don't care. It's my show. So like, yeah, one of the things that did it for me was when I used to see that when you would Google a video, because sometimes, yeah, we might need that extra. We might hit a wall. It used to really piss me off when it was just like the house music or the EDM dubstep music.
It's all on
and,
Notepad.
and it's on Notepad, and someone's just quickly going through the terminal, and you're not explaining anything. You're not explaining why. And it was just like, it used to, and I was the same way. I was like, man, I can do better than this, and then but then the funny thing is, you have people like, and I'll say their names. You have people like Codingo, who the stuff that like it's artwork, so how some of them do some of it, and I'm like, shit. I wonder. I have to ask him one day, like, do you do this like full time? Because the effort that he puts into his stuff and the research that he does, and it's like, yeah. So it's like there's no middle ground. It's either really really bad or really really good. And it was just like, okay, I don't have enough time in the day to do that. and I damn sure can do better than that. So, you gotta do more with it. But with yours, I like how, like, yeah, like you talked about, you can do more with just a cross-site scripting, and I like your videos, like you chain exploits, right? Because so often you see people that's like, oh yeah, I got, I got cross-site scripting and I can make it say hello, or I can make it say elite hacksaw, or whatever the hell reflecting on the screen. And it's like, okay, cool, but in a real life scenario, you're gonna have to, like we said before, you're gonna have to show impact. So, you know, I like how, like, you did. I think you did one where it was like cross-site scripting into cross-site request forgery. I think, did you do like an XXE one too, or something like that? There's a couple that I think you did that I was just like, oh sweet. I definitely like how and you do it on like vulnerable machines. It's like, I didn't even think you can. You're so caught up on just doing it one way, and it's like, I like that.
Yeah, like look up XSS to RCE for like an
Yeah.
XSS to RCE tutorial on DVWA. I promise you, before I posted mine, didn't exist. I guarantee it. I guarantee mine is the first occurrence.
Oh no, I'll co-sign that, because I literally said I've never seen someone do that before. So, and yeah, but yeah, it was RCE, but yeah, it was definitely like that's some stuff that you would see in some advanced tutorial or some advanced video or advanced training. That's like, I think we need to start making that the norm, because whether you're a bug bounty hunter or a pen tester, 9 times out of 10, a reflected cross-site scripting is not going to warrant a high level finding, and on either side of the spectrum, whether it's bug bounty testing or a regular pen test. They're going to go, okay, great, so you were able to say, you were able to get something reflecting on your own screen. Now what? So, so yeah, kudos to you to kind of seeing that and just being like, nah, you can do more with it. So let's see. Kalila says, not the house music and notepad. And Ty says, house music is sweet. No, it is. It is. Like I said, I enjoy it, but I'm trying to type. I'm not trying to fist bump. So, like, you can't do this and this at the same time. It's just, I've tried. You can't do it. So, but yeah, and Ty said, I work out to it. Yeah, there's a time and place for it. Not when you're trying to figure out why your interpreter shell isn't launching.
Yeah.
I don't. I need you to explain that to me. But to your point about doing the stuff with the YouTube channel and stuff like that, I think, well, your YouTube channel, the fact that you're mentoring and stuff like that, I think that's important as well, because there are a lot of people who want to get into the field, men, women, people from diverse cultures, veterans. There's so many people who want to get into the field and they just don't know how. And let's be real, some of these courses are great, but just starting out, you don't have the funds or the resources. And because you don't know who to network with, yeah, you don't know if some people you don't even know how to get the help. So I think doing those YouTube videos, and I think doing the mentoring, I think that's crucial. But I think the, now I have to find the right words.
They never come easy.
There's a certain level of passion that you have to, passion and patience that you have to have, right?
Oh yeah.
Because at times that person may not get it, or that person may not understand it, or that, and then from our standpoint, we want to help people, but we also want them to kind of help themselves. So I think you have to have a certain level of passion to help others. The others also need to have a passion to learn, but it also requires a level of patience. So for you, how do you find that balance when you're mentoring or you're trying to help somebody or you're even trying to maybe convert someone into getting into tech?
So I'm completely real with my mentees. So if they're doing something stupid, I'll tell them, and I'll probably make fun of them a little bit for it. But it's all in good fun.
Yeah.
Um, Helping others definitely takes patience. I know I mean, I don't even know where to begin with that. Like there's just a constant bombardment of, "Hey man, how do I do this?" Or how do I get, this vulnerability to do this objective? Or where can I go to learn about this? I mean, it's just never ending for me, but I mean, it doesn't bother me because those are quick, easy things that I know and I can respond to. But, when it gets outside of my ability to help someone, that's when it starts to bother me because then I'm like, I want to help you, but I don't know how.
Right.
So that's probably the biggest challenge is honestly when I can't help someone.
Right. For me, again, going back to the same conversation we were having about the journey, one of the things that I had to learn to have more patience with is people's rush to get to the finish line, right? So for me, I always want to figure out why, right? Why did this work? Why didn't it work? What's it doing? Because there might come a time where that tool may not be available or whatever, and you might need not necessarily have to script your own, but you need to know what's happening in the event that you need to do it manually, right? Because yeah, we might use automated tools and stuff like that. So I'm always like, okay, well, this is why this worked, or this is why this didn't work, or whatever. And too many times it's like, okay, well, oh, I'm stuck on this problem. All right, cool. What have you done? I just need it to work. Well, I can help you, but me just giving you the answer isn't going to it's not going to teach you anything.
Right.
So that was one thing that frustrated me. And then the other thing is, again, like, I kind of vet people who I mentor. Like, I kind of do not necessarily do my like do OSINT, but I kind of look to kind of see, if they are if they're posting certain things, what they're doing. Um, because a lot of people are getting smarter to it now as well, where before it was like, oh, can you teach me how to hack a social media account, or can you teach me how to hack a phone or whatever? And now it's like, oh, hey, I would love to learn about this and this. And I'm like, okay, cool, well, what have you done lately? And so now I start looking like, oh, are you even into security or whatever? Because that's one of the things like I'm terrified about, right? Is I don't want to teach somebody something that they use maliciously. Like, for years I've been asked to teach like OSINT stuff, and I'm terrified. Like, I don't want to. I'm like, no, because I've seen the negative side of OSINT. I've seen what people can do with OSINT. I've seen people die from OSINT. So it's like I try not to. So it's like I have to make sure I really trust you and know that, okay, you're not going to be on some bullshit if I teach you how to do this. So definitely passion, patience, and just due diligence. So all right, so go ahead. I'm sorry if you
Well,
want to say something.
part of the reason why I do this at all is because when I was growing up, uh, nobody did it for me. Nobody except for my two best friends in the world, James and Dan. Um, Nobody helped me out with anything,
Hmm.
and even even going through the Air Force, there were very few times that good friends and good coworkers would stick their necks out for me
Yeah.
or share their knowledge with me. And so just all of the rejection over life, it sickens me when I see it. And so I don't want to be that example. So unless if I clearly understand that, there's going to be like malicious intent with it, usually I'm just like, okay, you want to learn? This is where you go. This is what you do.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point, I think that's what led me to start my blog. Right, is that same thing that, like I said before, when I reached out to so many people and got either no answer at all, or no for an answer, it was like, okay, screw it. And then when I started to blog, how the blog came about was I started to get a lot of messages, DMs, and stuff, and it was like I can't keep up with all of this. Right, going back to that work-life balance and stuff like that. I'm like, I can't sit in front of a computer all the time. So it was like, cool. If I set up like a one-stop shop of things that where people ask me a lot of questions, now I can just say, okay, check, click here. So you might not get it me verbally saying it or typing it at that time, but here it is right here. So I definitely get that. Hey, hold on. Shout out to Rana Khalil. If you guys want to learn like web app hacking, please go check out her YouTube channel and everything she's doing with the web security academy with Portswigger. Great videos. She like we going back to what we were just talking about the people who make really bad content and people who make really good content.
Rana is not one of them.
She is one of the people that do really, 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 really good content. So please
Rana is incredible.
Please go check her out. Like she has a standing invite anytime. So but yeah, she said learning why things work is why each cert takes me forever to do. But there are no regrets whatsoever. No, absolutely. I think it makes you better suited for the cert, and I also think it makes you better at what you do. So Ty says, I tried finding a mentor but got rejected, so books and Googles are my family. Ty, that's not true. You know, you can send me a message. I it takes me a little bit to respond. I'm busy, but I always usually respond. So anyway. And Al says, I'm taking my cybersecurity journey at my own pace, understanding fully each process until it clicks and I can apply. I know it can be a long journey, just enjoying the ride. No, definitely enjoy the ride, man. Enjoy the ride. Please enjoy the ride. Because if you don't, and then you get into one of these jobs, you're going to be like, oh, what the hell? So, all right. So we're going to get to the last couple questions, and then we're going to do some Q&A, and then Cody's going to break off. So we talked about the YouTube channel. All right. So if someone were now in the same talk about mentoring, if someone were to come to you and ask you if there are any tips you would have or any advice you would have for new people getting into penetration testing, what would they be?
Don't listen to anybody that isn't a penetration tester or a red teamer. Do not take their advice at all, because everything that it's not that they're wrong or anything. It's just they're by and large ignorant. So that's what I would suggest. If you want to get into pen testing or red teaming, follow pen testers and red teamers, because these are people that have actually done it, the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Talk to them, read their blogs, I mean, even ask them questions. Just be like, hey, how did you get into the field? This is something I would like to do, and I want to kind of follow in your footsteps. People love to hear compliments like that, and they love to talk about themselves. That's actually a really good thing. People love to talk about themselves. So, but I mean, beyond that, if we want to talk about like practical things, this is what you can do today to make steps toward a career in penetration testing or red teaming. Start setting up your own labs. Find either known vulnerable software and install it on random VMs or something that you create. Start attacking them. Figure out ways that maybe you can fix them. You want to, when you're doing that, you really want to build like a holistic picture of your skills, because if you just study one side, I'm sorry, you don't bring a whole lot of value to an organization if you have awesome red team skills, but you don't know how to help the blue team build detections, or if you don't know how to communicate risk, or you don't know how to bring your findings into like the GRC structure of the organization. If you don't know how to do those things, you got a lot of work to do still.
Yeah, I think to your point, the soft skills, right? So yeah, learning
Yes,
the hands-on
yes.
stuff is absolutely crucial. But yeah, if you can't explain it or verbally or written, what good is it? It's almost like the show me pics or it never happened, right? It's that same mindset. If I sit there and go, yeah, I got root on your system, but I can't articulate how, or I can't write it out in a way where it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Then you're gonna do is get a whole bunch of pushback, and eventually you probably won't get paid. And that's the whole purpose. And if you don't get paid, or if the consultancy doesn't get paid and you don't get paid, then we're gonna go move in a different direction. But yeah, you definitely have to be able to articulate that. So the soft skills, um, and not, I mean, I know you said, talk about how to, implement certain things or fixes. I wouldn't go that deep into it, but at least know the recommendations, right? Again, this is why I said knowing why certain things work and how they work is important, because if you got an exploit, if you exploited something successfully, but you don't know why that exploit worked, you just basically, sprayed and prayed and hit the button. Okay, so when they say, well, how do we remediate it, or what recommendations can you give? Should you patch? Are they using an outdated version? Do they need to refer to a third party vendor? Is there some, is there a discrepancy in the code? You gotta know these things. So definitely the hands-on stuff is important, but making sure you know that why it worked and how to articulate that is definitely crucial. So okay, so we talked about the advice for new people. All right, what are your goals for the rest of 2021?
I kind of just want to figure out the next chapter of my life. I've been through a lot over the last 10 years, and especially within like the last 3 or 4, I just want to figure out where like my personal life is going. That's incredibly important to me. But as far as like tangible goals, I want to take on the 3 new courses by Offensive Security, just so I can. So, like I say this a lot, but so I can reclaim my legitimacy as an OSCE. I don't know if you've ever had the misfortune of taking the old course. It was not structured well, like almost impossible to pass the exam if you didn't have like knowledge that exists outside of the course. So
Yeah.
that's what I would like to do, is just to get those 3 new certs. And actually, believe it or not, I'd actually like to take on CISSP. That
Really?
would be
Yeah. Okay. That's a different grind in itself. Like the CISSP, it was we're used to doing hands-on and practical stuff. CISSP is all procedure and code and compliance, and like I didn't expect it to take so much out of me than it actually did. And for those who aren't familiar with certifications, and you hear us talk about certifications, or you hear other people talk about certifications, and they're like, you act like it's some type of physical toll. It is like that grind, that studying, especially for these higher up certifications. It's like a mental, it's like a mental boxing match. So yeah, it definitely does take a toll on you. Like I think after I took the CISSP, I think I slept for like a day and a half, because of the whole grind. And then I did the free stuff. Always look at stuff if there's free stuff. I looked at the free stuff on Cybrary. I had the CISSP Sunflower. I bought the books, read the books, highlighted, went back to the Sunflower, took the practice exams, and then I still didn't feel confident, so I actually paid for like an online course. Took the online course, crammed for like another week, and then took the exam. And in my mind, how I did it was, usually when I take those type of tests, any question that I'm iffy about, I just immediately think it's wrong. And I told myself, okay, this is before they changed the exam to the adaptive exam. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I have like 15 or so that I can get wrong before I know I failed. And I think I was at like 13 or 14. And I
Wow.
remember hitting that, and then after you do it, you have to take this little survey and all of that. It's like after the test is the most gut-wrenching, because it's like, oh, we're going to process a score, but first tell us how we did today. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. Right? I'm just here to take the test. And then you do it, and I go through the whole process, and it's like, okay, calculating score, and like the screen flickers, and then it was like, please go to the front desk. I'm like, oh, and you go to the front desk, and then they print it. The printer was like, printer was acting up. Like, it was the most crucial 10 minutes. And then I got the piece of paper. I'm going, and it was like, oh, you provisionally passed. I was like, oh, thank God. And I ran. It was like right before, I remember it was like the day before Thanksgiving, or a couple days before Thanksgiving. Like, I ran out of there, and I was like, my wife was like, what are we going to do to celebrate? I was like, I'm taking a nap.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you sleep at all like during that entire time?
No. So, and then the part that killed me was the boot camp that I took was in Vegas.
So you definitely didn't
sleep. So I'm on the East Coast, and they're 3 hours behind, and they're like, we're going to go all the way to 1 a.m. That's 4 a.m. over here. So I'm like, oh God. So yeah. I came home, and she's like, we're going to celebrate. And I was like, yeah, after this nap. And I literally didn't wake up till like the next day. So, yeah, but it like I said, it's a great certification to have. And when you do get it, brighttalk.com, watch the videos, learn from the videos, but gather those damn CEUs, get those continuing education credits.
Writing this down right now, brighttalk.com.
So, all right. So, final question, Cody. Like I said, you've seen the show before, so you know the question. What is your why?
My why is extremely personal. So without hacking, I would not be here. I would be 6 feet in the ground, because I literally cannot function without hacking being a part of my life, nor this community being a part of my life. I cannot function at all. I tried it once. It almost ended irrevocably bad. And so that is my why. My why is because I don't want to die. And if I keep hacking, if I keep learning, if I keep reaching out to people, if I keep doing these things, I'll live forever.
That's deep. Thank you for sharing that, man. Thank you for sharing that. Like, that's a real statement, man. So I have nothing for that. So again, I thank you for for sharing that. So ladies and gentlemen, everybody in the chat, this has been Cody Winkler from CW InfoSec. So now we are going to get into the Q&A. We're going to do some Q&A for a little bit. Again, you guys know the rules. You can ask anything, but keep it clean and respectful. I do respond in kind. So so let's see what we got here. Where are we? Professor Black Ops says, facts, I'm blue team, but I do some red team skills to test my hardening. I think we were talking when you were talking about that. Kalila says, that's great advice. Let's see. Oh, here's one from Circuit the Fox. Is the CompTIA Pen Test Plus certificate worth it? I would say so. Here's why. Yes, it's a new certification, and yes, it's CompTIA, and people have their opinions about the CompTIA certs. But I definitely feel like in the next few years, it's definitely going to be one of the certifications to have. Excuse me, on your path to pen testing. Like if you're already in the field, doesn't really make sense to kind of go back unless you want to. But if you're already somewhere in like a mid to senior level pen testing role, you don't necessarily need it. But if you're just starting out, I would say, like I said, I cringe every time I say it, because CEH has kind of been, what's the word I'm looking for? effing up a lot lately. EC Council.
Oh, don't even get me started, man.
Yeah, they've been fumbling the bag a lot lately. So I'm trying not to say it, but unfortunately, I still think it's a good foundational certification to have. So I would still say Net Plus, Sec Plus, CEH, Pentest Plus, hands-on experience, OSCP. Or like I said, I know there's other ones that like EJPT and stuff like that. I'm not 100% familiar with them to just throw that out there. I'm just going off of my personal opinion. Um, if you have anything you want to add to it.
I've never taken Pentest Plus, so I just simply don't know. But from many of my peers, I've heard it's quite good. Definitely worth it.
Yeah. Like I said, I like it a lot more than the CEH. Only reason at this point, the only reason the CEH is on my list is because it's still on employers' list. If I'm keeping it a buck, if I'm being honest, that's the only reason. And the name of the game is you want to get a job and get paid, right? So if you're doing it to get a professional job, unfortunately, a lot of these companies are still looking at the CEH as one of the top certifications to get. So play the game. That's just what my
just
take.
walk into the interview and be like, "Hey, are we playing The Price is Right?" That's all you gotta do, man.
So Ty says I'm studying for the Pen Test Plus now. Doing July. Yep. Like I said, keep at it. Shayna B says CISSP seems like employers are trying to make that an entry level cert now. Employers are morons. Like employers basically and I can say that now being on that end where they're coming up with a job description and their certifications and they're throwing everything at the wall of what they would want in an ideal candidate because they figure we can do that and pay them minimally. The CISSP is not an entry level certificate. Hell, you can't even take the CISSP without a few years of experience, and you can't get the full CISSP without at least 5 years of experience in every category under the CISSP. So, back to my original statement, employers are morons. Employers in the HR department can be effing morons. So, I don't know if you want to add to that or if you want to stay safe with that moron statement.
I'm hoping not, because I want to get it and I want to make more money someday. So ISC squared, if you're listening, please don't allow this to happen. We need an aggressive PR campaign.
Yeah, I don't think to ISC squares to their credit, they're not, but at the same time they're like, but if you're going to do it, we have this associate CISSP. So it's like, okay, so you took the exam, just imagine this, right? And you're about to go through this. You go through that entire grind that I just told you about, and you don't have the experience necessary. And they tell you, congratulations, you have an associate CISSP. Come back when you have X amount of years of experience in these categories to get the full CISSP. Like imagine like you busting your ass and then getting a participation trophy. Like that's that's how I look at it. Like no. And then on top of it, you're not going to understand half the stuff that's in there if you haven't been in a real, security environment. So just, that if you plan on making security your career, 5 years will go by quick.
Is it true they have like a secret police of sorts where like if you say anything bad about ISC squared, they'll pull your cert? I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard something along those lines.
I've heard if you do it, yes, it's not even just bad about ISC squared. Basically, if you do anything while you have that certification that comes into a negative light, they're gonna pull it. So
well, in that case, I think the associate of whatever amazing idea. Amazing.
That's why I said
I've never heard of a better idea.
That's why I said to their credit, they don't want you to do it, but if you do, they give you this option.
Yeah,
But
that's different.
from a tester standpoint, please don't punish Cody. But to a tester standpoint, imagine taking that and then just being like, "Oh, you got this associate because you weren't qualified enough to get the full certification." Because after you get the certification, there's a whole vetting process. So whatever. All right. So Circuit the Fox says, I took Sec Plus back in 2019 and passed with a 778. I spent 16 hours a day studying 8-hour boot camps, 8 hours after work. Mind you, I'm only a developer for now. Hey, whatever works, right? Like that's a similar grind that you have to take when you're studying. So congrats on passing. And just keep the certification relevant. So Ty says, my Cisco cert drained me 4 months, 4 hours a day plus working. Yeah, it like I said, those certifications are like, yeah, prepping for them are rough. Circuit the Fox says my partner is still doing his CCNA still, and he's pretty tired from it too. No, it is. It like I said, it's definitely. Like I said, I didn't take the CCNA, but I've taken some where it's just like, oh gosh, yeah, like you definitely need to like relax after that. Kalila says she's gonna keep you in her prayers.
Shout out, Kalila. Thank you.
Yes, and again, if you guys haven't checked out Kalila, please go follow her on Twitter, ki underscore twice, and she does the videos with Cyber Insight JB, another friend of the show, where they're kind of going through the Try Hack Me Pen Test Plus lab. So L Style says great presentation, and Ladera Jackson, my beautiful wife, says wow, thank you for sharing that, Cody.
Thank you so much, man.
And then Ty says, I'm on my third attempt with taking the Pen Test Plus. It's not a punk test, trust me. No, it's not. Like I said, that's why I said you definitely have to have some knowledge and some hands-on stuff to pass it. L Style says, what books on Python for a beginner do you recommend? Cody, I'll let you go first.
I can't speak to just like regular coding books for Python, but Codecademy's Python course will get you far enough to where you'll be fine. I don't know if you'll be able to do like high level professional development off of Codecademy's course, but they'll give you great foundational knowledge. If you want to take that more into like a pen testing or red team kind of direction, Black Hat Python by
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking.
Black Hat Python is the book you want.
Hold on.
I don't even see it on my bookshelf anywhere.
Justin Sites. I got it right here.
Yep, that's the one.
Yep. Black Hat Python. And Ty also said Python Crash Course. I have that book. That's a really good one. And again, go check out some courses on Udemy. They have I can't remember that. I think it's like Python 0 to Hero. Like it teaches you everything that you need to kind of understand the basics. So that's a good one to get. And I said it because I bought it and took that course. So go check that out. Click that link right there to go to the Udemy store and just type in Python. I think it's like Python 0 to Hero. Let's see. KevTech says entry level, must have 5 years of job experience, must have long beard, must have XYZ certifications. Damn job requirements. No, that's real. And it's only getting, to me, job requirements are only getting worse after 2020. Go ahead.
So it's been my personal experience that job requirements are very often like they're not super strict. So let me explain why. The first position that I had at this company outside of the Air Force, they gave me 2 offers from the same job interview. One was for audit remediation, just kind of like low-level network engineer. The other one was a senior network engineer, which I thought very carefully about. But audit remediation was a more streamlined direction toward this goal, becoming red team. So there might be times where you're interviewing, and depending on how you do throughout the interview process, you might get an offer that's different from what they posted. They might go up, they might go down. It just kind of depends,
Yep. No, that's true. Like I actually just did one where I applied for a role and they ended up wanting to give me like an associate director role, and I was this close to signing the deal, but that's where the running joke in the Wolfpack chat is 360 deals. That's where that's where the 360 deal came in. It was like, oh yeah, give us everything, give us your life, and you can't do any more content, and you can get this role. And I wasn't about to give that up. So, and I'm glad I did, because like I said, I'm here with Cody. So DFIR Diva, another friend of the show, another one who I keep talking about. Again, going back to that bad content versus good content, please go check out her blog. She's got amazing stuff up there and a lot of resources to help people get in the field for free or, very cheap. So go check her out. She goes, I don't even think you can say associate CISSP. I think it can only be an associate of ISC squared. I don't know. I have a full one. So
oh, look at you flexing. Must be nice.
every once in a while, you just got to remind yourself of who you are, Circuit says, okay, I got another one. Vulnerability scanners like OAuth Zap, is this good to implement into an application development lifecycle? I would say so, as long as you do manual testing the back to reinforce. Cody, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
So you ideally should be able to do anything with similar kind of styled programs, right? So like if you're using a proxy, you should know how to use like other vendors' proxies.
Yep.
As an example. So if you want to use OAuth Zap for that purpose, you can. But the correct answer is Burp Suite Pro. Just want to let you know that. But yes, you can absolutely do that, and you should do that.
Yeah. Burp Suite definitely is worth the $400. I'll say that, especially if you're doing pen testing or web app stuff. Like, you're going to make that money back one way or another fairly quickly. So Anonymous says, when are you going to tell the truth, CW InfoSec? I'm scared to know what that is.
I've been trolling your channel for the last 8 months under the guise of Anonymous.
Are you fucking kidding me?
RPQ 515, here we go.
Are you kidding me? Are you oh man. Well played, sir.
I wasn't sure if I should have kept it secret and just like let it continue.
Well, you said it a couple of weeks ago. Like, I forgot what stream, and you were like, I'm gonna reveal myself, and I was like, okay. That is hilarious.
It's all about the long con.
Oh, oh man, I don't even want to.
Surprise, motherfuckers.
Oh, it makes so much sense now. The epic statements. Okay, so for those who don't know, like I said, when I did Cody's podcast, like, he did this intro and it was like super epic, and I was like, man, that shit sounded like a superhero intro, and I was like, I gotta figure out how to do that. And now it's like, now you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, he definitely would be one to do. Well played, sir. Well played. Well freaking played.
I thought about just not saying anything. Back to the Q&A.
Back to the Q&A. Oh, wow. I recently achieved the Tia Trifecta, what now? I'm unsure on what path I want to head towards in terms of cloud networking, blue or red teaming. Mr. Untouchable, I would just say that's a question for you. Like that's a you question, you know. I could tell you to get into pen testing. Cody could tell you to get into pen testing, but that might not be for you. I would really just do some research on, you know, because cybersecurity is a broad field, right? Like usually you hear people talk about hacking, forensics, incident response, you know, security admin, SOC, or whatever. There's a whole bunch of stuff that are technical and non-technical. That's definitely, I would say, take some time to research. You know, I'm sorry, I'm still messed up at the fact that this motherfucker said he's but yeah, I would definitely you know, do some research on the different things that you like and, you know, take it from there. So, Anonymous, would you like to add to that?
So I mean, like, think about it like this: you have exactly one life. You don't get any more. This is it. This is the only one you have, and you don't have a lot of time left either. You have, at best, 80 years or so, plus or minus 10 or so, on average. You don't have a whole lot of time. So you got to figure that out as soon as humanly possible. Like, you ideally should be figuring that out like the second you graduate high school. You got to figure that out, because the more time you let slip by where you're not doing what you're good at, where your skills are needed, the more time you let slip by while you're not doing those things, money out the window. You might as well take like a big suitcase of money and just light it on fire and then take a giant dump on it, because that's exactly what you're doing every second that you waste not chasing your dream. Now, a part of figuring out what you want to do, explore. Do as many different things as you can. Sometimes you'll be like, this was kind of a waste of time. I'm not interested. Other times you might even find that you like something that you didn't even know. So, like, as an example, I'm not good at it, but I like playing piano. I love piano. So you just explore as much as you can, and explore as much as you can as fast as you can, because the clock's ticking.
Hold on.
Hey, listen.
I don't know if y'all heard that, so I'm gonna do it one more time.
Hey, listen.
All right. That was a gem, ladies and gentlemen. That was a gem. You could take that with you for your career or in life. So yes, that was definitely a gem. All right, where are we? Let's see. It looks like there's some conversations. Look, hold on. So my wife says, you are definitely a conversation in our house. Everyone calls and like, who is anonymous? And we're like, I don't know. And she's not like, I literally had a conversation with my sister. I don't know if she's watching. Mel, if you're watching, well, this is it. I'd like to introduce you to Anonymous. Yeah, like I literally had conversations with, like, they called me and they're like, dude, who is Anonymous? He's so effing epic. I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like, I need to figure this out. I'm like, I need to keep him on the show. So yeah, that was definitely. I literally said that. I said that last week. I said, you know, he said he was going to. I said, I'm sorry. They said they were going to reveal themselves. I didn't know if it was a he or she. I was like, they said they were going to reveal themselves. I was like, I'm gonna let it go for another few episodes. I said, and then I'm gonna probably have to start doing some OSINT. I literally said that just last week. So, yeah. But that was that's an exclusive. So, Circuit the Fox says, I don't think my employer will let me get a Burp Suite Pro until I get a pen tester cert under my belt. So here's a hack, Circuit. Burp Suite Pro, yes, about $400. If you can't come up with the money out of your own pocket, get the free version. Get the community edition. The community edition doesn't come with some of the features like burp scanner, or it's not as fast with the intruder and stuff like that. However, there are a bunch of different plugins and stuff that you can get online for free that kind of give you some of those same capabilities as a Burp Suite Pro license. So get the community license. Google how to get some of the tools to kind of, I think there's literally a YouTube video, like it's like Pimp My Burp or something like that, that teaches you how to get some of the things that help you get some of those features that you're missing. And then, like I said, and then you'll have everything except for the burp scanner, which is honestly just a vulnerability scanner from Burp Suite. So look, everybody is loving the big reveal. So JB says Kaiser Sose.
Well, now I should probably get rid of that account.
Yep.
Before everyone figures out where else I'm trolling. You're
burned. So Harley says, "Somebody please." Oh, as soon as I'm off. That what you mean? That's the clip. That's the clip that's going off. And you know what? For those who are watching live, watch when I do the clip. I'm gonna say what's the truth, and then I'm just gonna cut it off and say watch the whole video. So let's see. Where are we? Any other questions? Where are we? Other questions? Hey, Butters, I see you. Shout out to Butters. Check your DMs, Butters. Butters says, my biggest mistake was taking forever to realize I wanted to be in cybersecurity. I was listening to security podcasts before I even thought I could ever make it in the career. To me, that was my biggest regret, is that I didn't get into it sooner. When I got in, I was like, I have to learn everything there is to learn about tech and help desks. And I worked my way up to like sysadmin, and I was like, now I'll jump into pen testing. And I'm realizing that I probably could have made that jump maybe about a good 2.5 years sooner.
Significantly earlier for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's things that you can do in the meantime, so like a really roundabout way of building experience. So bug bounties definitely count.
Yes.
I would be surprised to find any employer that is going to be like, oh, you did bug bounties? Don't care.
Some companies look at that like, oh, you did bug bounties? Please.
Yeah.
Join us.
But finding 0 days, disclosing, getting CVEs from doing that, it's also a good way to build experience, because those are real apps.
Yep.
Demonstrable knowledge.
Yep.
And especially if you disclose, you've got proof of it now.
Yep.
And so you don't have to be crazy good to find them either. Like if you have basic skills, like you know how to manually find very basic bugs, you can find 0 days. You just take what find some random application that a lot of people use and throw everything you have at it. Just mess around with it, do what you got to do. Carry it out like you would a CTF machine.
Yeah.
And boom, easy experience.
I think one of the things that hold a lot of people back from bug bounties is the fact that it's essentially a black box pen test. So you have the scope, and it's figuring out that recon. At least I know that's what it was for me. Like, it was like, okay, so what do I need to do? And then once you kind of figure out you don't necessarily have to figure out your own from scratch. But I mean, you have people like NahamSec, Jason Haddix literally does like one every year of the bug hunter methodology. Stoke, Tom Nom Nom. There's so many people that you can kind of pick up, and they're generous enough to actually write their own tools and put them out there. But going back to the journey and understanding how and why things work, figure out your own recon method. Like, know what you want to do. So I need to find subdomains. Cool. I need to do some directory brute forcing. Boom. I need to do an Nmap scan or some vuln scans or service scans. Figure that out. Create your own script. Create your own script, and then use one of the scripts that someone else used, and compare and contrast what made yours work. What do you like about yours that you don't necessarily like about theirs, and what you like about theirs that you don't like about yours, and how can you blend them together? As soon as you know it, before you know it, That's the first thing. And once you figure out the recon, it's all a matter of about just curiosity, right? So if you see something that looks okay, this looks like this something I might want to look at, or oh, this is something I want to poke and prod at. Now you can literally going back to Google as your friend, looking at how some people test for SQL injection. Look what Cody did with the cross-site scripting and RCEs. Trying to find things that'll find impact. And a lot of people get upset when they do bug bounty and they're like, oh, but it's a dupe. Again, yes, it sucks that you might not get paid, or it sucks that you might get a t-shirt or a sticker or whatever. But again, to me, it's about the journey. The money will come. The money will come because guess what? The more proficient you get at it, the faster you'll get. And the faster you'll get, the faster you'll be first. So all right, so back to your big reveal. There's my sister right there. She said, "Wow."
I actually saw something I wanted to comment on by Ty about self-XSS and bug bounty, but we can do that.
Oh yeah. All right, let me scroll down real quick. Yep. So she says, Melody says, I was really asking. Wait, hold on, Khalid. What did Khalid? Oh, there she goes. Anonymous was my low-key YouTube comments bay.
I assure you, Kalila, you will forever be Anonymous's comment bay as well. That's two-way street.
All right, so which what did you say? Ty said I did a bug bounty, but I didn't get the prize. I found a self-XSS, but the company put it in their site.
Okay, so this particular bug bounty finding confuses me. It confuses me a lot. Okay, here's a good thing to learn about cross-site scripting, and kind of like what Davin and I were talking about earlier, learn how to chain cross-site request forgery with it. Because if you can demonstrate from a self-inflicted XSS that you can still bypass their content security policy and reference scripts from outside of the organization, that's still a finding. It's not as cool as cross-site scripting, but it's still a finding.
Yep.
I'm really surprised that companies don't pay out on that one. Like, if you could demonstrate that, I don't know why they wouldn't pay out on it.
Yeah. Again, it's all about showing to what they think is impact. So Notleet says, when you're on an engagement, what are the security practices that make your job as a red teamer harder?
Oh, let's that's a tough one to unpack. So there's parts of the job that are very difficult for me. I would say probably the hardest is figuring out where and when to unhook EDR. That is a huge one for me. So EDR, I would say, is probably like up there on my list of things I'm concerned with that make my job harder.
If you want to elaborate on EDR, what's EDR?
So endpoint detection and response is significantly different from antivirus. So, it's esoterically like they serve similar purposes, but EDR will actually watch what you do, instead of watch out for specific things about, maybe an exploit or a payload or something. EDR will watch what you do. And that's a problem, because if I go into an engagement completely blind, and let's say I use lateral movement technique T9001 on MITRE ATT&CK or whatever, if they detect that right off the bat, then that engagement was a failure on my part, because I wasn't able to effectively test the entirety of the scope before getting detected. So anyway, it might not be like a failure to the organization. It would be a failure to me personally.
Right.
But yeah, EDR definitely top three. The SUC or the blue team itself is number 2. And I can't think of a number 3. but EDR and Blue Team, top 2 concerns for sure.
Okay. Cameron Homer says, hey, really like both of your content. Been a sysadmin for 5 years. Finished a few e-learn certs and doing OSCP now. Do you think the market for junior pen testers is oversaturated? I'll let you go first since the screen's on you.
I don't think so. But I want to kind of elaborate why, if we could really like define what it is that is kind of holding us back, because I don't think it's the certs themselves. I don't necessarily think it's employers either.
Yep.
You know, if you think a certification is worth it to you, go do it, you know, because that's really all that matters, is the credentials that you think are valuable and what knowledge you want to build for yourself. That's what really matters. But I mean, when you actually like start getting into like upper tiers, I guess, higher positions within just companies in general, then it starts to matter a lot, because you know, like you could have a great repertoire, you could have a great reputation, but you still might get shut down because you didn't meet a company's checkbox, you know? So that's why certs matter, but it's also why they kind of don't.
And to your point about, you know, getting the certs that you want to get, I think that's also crucial, because the certifications that you want to get, you're going to be more invested in getting. You're going to want to go through that grind. You're going to want to go through those courses and figure it out. Trust me, I've done certifications where I'm like, I'm not really that interested, and I don't quite care if I pass or fail. And then you have some that's like, I have to get this, and I'm gonna stay up and I'm gonna go through whatever I need to go through. And also, especially if you're paying out of your own pocket, pay for the certifications you want to get, because those certifications are expensive. So make sure it's something that you want to do, you want to get, and work towards. But to your point about the market being oversaturated, I think it's oversaturated with a lot of people who are paper certified and not but don't have the technical skills. And if you're talking about doing stuff like you did the e-learn search and you're working towards your OSCP, if you again can take what you've learned from those e-learn certs and from that PWK course and can apply it to your pen testing knowledge and show that you know what you're talking about, you'll stand out from the oversaturated market. You'll definitely stand out. And people, and to, like Cody said earlier, when you have that OSCP, people will come for you. So I would say, one thing I say to people I mentor is, get some, on top of the certification, get some CTFs out of the way, get some vulnerable machines out of the way, and do write-ups, because that speaks to your technical knowledge as well, because now you have it and you can see your methodology right then and there. So let's see. Kalila says, oh, she's talking to my wife, said y'all had a cloud connection. Butter says, some of the best security people I know did like 5 years or more of something else, like help desk, sysadmin, developer, etc. Love pulling people from those fields into security. No, it is like, I definitely think you should have some tech knowledge or some foundation before you jump into security. I just think you shouldn't wait, half your career to get into it. Because like I said, it's definitely a grind. And like you were saying, sometimes the studying gets a lot harder. Like I'm finding now, like, it's not like I can't study like I used to like 5-10 years ago, where I'm like, all right, I'm going to lock myself down. Now it's like, okay, you can do this. And several Red Bulls and coffees later, I'm still like, why am I even doing this? Ty asks, how do you keep your fire going and not let your employer kill it?
I've been lucky enough at this company to have incredibly awesome leadership. It was not the same when I was in the Air Force. When I was in the Air Force, I was, for the most part, still under very good leadership. Not as good as now, but good enough in its own. But on a couple of occasions, I have served under horrendous leadership. And the the point that I want to make here is that it's the job doesn't burn me out. The workload doesn't burn me out. The technology doesn't burn me out. It's people that burn me out. And I said this on Harley's stream when I joined him. And it's people are always going to burn me out way faster than technology ever will. Because, if I get frustrated on the job, I mean, there's 1,000 different resources I can go to. Maybe some of them not so good.
Yeah.
But there's still resources out there. If I have a problem with a person, there's no resources for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing that you can possibly do is shut your own ego down and don't make things worse for yourself. That's the best thing that you can do.
Yep. So, I think I said it on your show when I was on your show, and I've said it a bunch of times. When I thought about stepping away from cybersecurity, that was the conversation I had to have with myself. And the conclusion I came to was, no, I love what I do. I just hate who I do it for. And that's to your point. Yeah. Like the I can get, to me, I get frustrated with the technology. I get frustrated with even some of the content and the material, but when it's just that, and it's like, and it's just that, to me, it's a challenge, right? I think I tweeted about that the other day where I said, yeah, I feel like I'm going through imposter syndrome, but this one felt different. This one felt like, okay, I feel like I need to step my game up, and I'm like, challenge accepted. But when there's people involved, or there's red tape and company politics and all that other bullshit, that's when it starts to get draining and mentally exhausting. Like, for example, like I was talking to my wife today, and we were having a conversation. And I was like, man, I feel like I just need to kind of step it up. And she just looked at me and said, so do it. And I was like, yeah, what I'm saying? Like, it was great. Right. But dealing with some certain situations that I dealt with previously, that conversation could have went completely different.
Oh yeah.
in a different environment. Right. Like, so where she said that today, and I'm like, you're absolutely right. I'm going to go do it. If this were 6 months ago and I said that, and she'd have been like, so step your game up, but I'm like, no, you don't understand. And I probably would have ran off somewhere in the corner, like rocking back and forth crying. But no, I love you, babe. I'm just joking. So, but yeah, and I think a couple people said that also. Kev Tech says, you stay motivated when you like your job. You never get tired. Surround yourself with successful people and positive vibes only. And I agree 100% with Kev. Like I said, even if the job does get frustrating, there's a whole community. There's a whole community on here, on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and sometimes just let it out. Like I've learned that too. Like I was super introverted and stayed to myself, and now every once in a while I'm like, now I'm not having a good day, and people will go, hey, I hope everything's working out, whatever. And sometimes, and it's not that I don't have a good support system behind me, but sometimes it's like people who are in the know, you know what I'm saying? It's like a soldier can relate to another soldier, right? It's kind of one of those things. So let's see what other questions. I saw another good one, and then we're going to try to wrap it up. Nope. I think we asked that one. That was an oversaturated question. Oh, here we go. Mr. Untouchable. Quick question. It might be a bit odd, but what's your guys' setup like as pen testers in terms of types of number of monitors, various peripherals, daily apps and sites you all visit, standing desk? Thanks. I'll let you go first.
Okay, so my table is a $20 picnic table from Walmart. My light is a $5 light from Radio Shack before they went bankrupt. And okay, so the setup isn't what matters. Okay, the PC itself, that's what matters. Yep. I spent money on my PC. I spent money on my monitors, and I spent money on my peripherals. But that's because I wanted it to be that way. Everything else is just, I could care less. Like table, lamp, whatever. Even the chair. The chair sucks. I don't mind. But everything in my PC needed to be the best because the job demands it.
Yep. I recently invested in more stuff set up for my office because I work mainly remote now. So I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna be here, I need to actually be whatever. And so I got a standing desk, just because, like, for posture, like my back starts killing me if I sit too long. But to your point, yeah, absolutely right. It doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is the computer. Doesn't matter how many monitors you have, even though I do recommend at least two. But it's the computer that matters, and if you invest in a really good one, it'll ride with you till the wheels fall off. Like my very first hacking laptop is still with me. I mean, I might have to refresh it every once in a while and redo the OS, but it's still with me to this day. You guys seen online, I just bought El Lobo. Um, that was that was a big investment, but El Lobo's I'll probably pass that on to my grandkids with all the stuff that's in it. I might just have to jack up the RAM in a couple of years, but other than that, yeah, like this is gonna be like my grandkids' first PC. So whatever. And then and yeah, just the peripherals and all of that stuff will come. As far as apps and stuff that I use, I still like to do a lot of the testing manually first. So, I have like a little bash script, and I think I'm gonna answer a couple questions. I see Ty asked about scripting. So like I have a little bash script that kind of goes through a lot of my recon process depending on what I'm doing. So if it's like a pen test, yeah, I kind of if it's a pen test that I kind of already have the scope, and it's like a white box pen test or a crystal box pen test, um, I already have my scope of like, Nmap, whatever ports, whatever, and go through that process. And then if it's something where it's more of a, black box, not really knowing too much, then I have like the DNS stuff, ASNs, scraping all that information and trying to get that information. So, again, learning the tools, how they work, why they work will get you far. Um, and then after that, it just kind of the tools, it just kind of goes wherever the test takes me, because there might be some times where you need metasploit, there might be times where you use a manual exploit. So it just depends on whatever. Once you get the initial recon done, that's where it starts to get like dynamic, right? So the recon phase is going to be static depending on the type of pen test. You're gonna go, you're gonna want to check your ports, you're gonna want to check what services, you want to check if you're on a web app, you're gonna want to see what directories are out there. If there's a robots.txt file, you might want to run a nic2 scan. Like that's given. Once you get into the weeds is when it's like, okay, maybe let me use this tool instead of this tool. So that's all. But yeah, like you said, yeah, the PC is definitely what again might be showing my age, but it was the old Jordan commercials of Spike Lee, and it was like, it's got to be the shoes, it's got to be the computer. Like that's how I look at it.
That might have been before my time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, man, it's got to be the shoes. Yeah, it's got to be the shoes. So yeah, all right. So I think we are all set with the questions that I have here. So before we close out, how can the people find you, Cody?
Twitter, CW InfoSec, blog, cwinfosec.org, GitHub, CW InfoSec, YouTube, CW InfoSec. Mostly, I think that's like the big four that you can all follow me on.
Yep. All right.
So if you find me on LinkedIn, you can shoot me an invite too, but that's better.
Yep. So all right. So before we close out, let me just go in here, get my little stream deck. There we go. So a lot of people were hitting me up on my DMs and stuff about merch and stuff like that. So I have it here. So you can go check out my merch store on TeePublic. Did it come up in the chat? Nope, it did not come up in the chat. Oh, there you go. Hold on. Professor Black Ops says Mars Blackman on the shoes. Yep. Tell you, you got to find those commercials. But yeah, so again, yeah, my merch store is on TeePublic. That's where I have this shirt, like the Join the Pack shirt. So I have the red team, I have one in red, I have one in blue, and I have one in purple. Obviously, red team, blue team, purple team. I have my Only Hacks shirt, which is like my play on OnlyFans. I have some other stuff coming real soon. I just have the time. I just need the time to design them. Again, I need to thank Webroot and Udemy, for allowing me to be an affiliate and promote their stuff. So you can check those out. I know those are bit.ly links. Trust me, they're safe. I would not put malicious links on my own show. And I know this one, I know people kind of cringe, but you can also check out NordVPN. They came out with they updated their stuff since Troy Hunt has joined the team. I wouldn't promote it if I still felt uncomfortable about it. Like, I've been an affiliate for them for a long time, but once their stuff started to get murky, I kind of cut it off. And then, in conversations and reading up on what Troy's been doing, I feel comfortable doing that again. So please don't kill me, internet. Or I'll send Professor Black Ops, because Professor Black Ops always wants to smoke. Once again, I need to thank the sponsor, Security Sherpa from HailBytes. Please go check them out, especially if you want to get into the AppSec field. And you want to get into the AppSec field, you want to definitely have that knowledge. And finally, if you like what I'm doing, you can go on Buy Me a Coffee and buy me a coffee. Like I said, there's going to be other perks that's coming up with that soon. Again, I'm just trying to find time. I've been doing a lot of different things, a lot of stuff going on in the background, a lot of conversations that I want to share with you guys, but they'll be coming soon. So, again, thank you to everybody for joining. Thank you to my guest, Cody, CW InfoSec, a.k.a. Anonymous. Like you already know, man, like, I think we hit it off from that very first time, and it's just kind of been like whatever ever since. Friend of the show. Anytime you need me, sir, I'm here. You want to, whatever it is, you know how to find me, obviously. So, thank you for joining. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for everything that you've done for me. Like I said, just even getting out here in the first place. And before we close out the show, I'm going to need you to give us something from Anonymous to send us home.
Ladies and gentlemen, those who refuse to identify themselves because fuck the system, let's all join hands and prepare for the true clouds binding destiny for our lives as we all get ready to merge as one on the day of singularity. Devin, thank you so much for having me.
How did I not know this? That is awesome, man.
Yeah, it's funny because on the website is actually my Discord name. So if you go on there, you'll see my Discord name, like big old black letters at the bottom.
And then you swerved in the beginning with the intro, and it said, "Yeah, their whole website." That was. Oh man, that's awesome. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, everybody watching, this has been another episode of InfoSec Unplugged. Again, special thank you to Cody, CW InfoSec, a.k.a. Anonymous. Listen, now that the cat's out the bag, I still want to see them show up on the show.
So, he'll be here.
So yeah, so like that still got to happen. And for those, if anybody's new to the show, I won't reveal. So everybody in the pack, listen, I'm gonna need y'all right now. Put it in the chat right now.
Pretend you didn't know.
Any future episode when Anonymous shows up, we do not reveal the identity. Let the new viewers figure it out, and then I'm gonna hit them with if you want to know who it is, please go check my previous episodes. I'm not even gonna tell them what episode to check out. They're gonna have to go through it and figure it out themselves. And hopefully that'll get my numbers up and my subscribers up. Nah, I'm playing. No, but for real. Don't. This is our secret, pack. This is our secret. So, again, thank you to everybody in the pack. Thank you to my chat. Again, I love y'all. I appreciate everything that y'all have been doing. All the friends of the show that's here. So JB, DFIR Diva, Kalila, Professor Black Ops, Mel, my beautiful wife, Mr. Untouchable, Ty, Butters, Kev, all y'all. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you tune in next week. If you guys want to see who my guest is, usually I wait till the weekend, but I actually revealed the month of May because I was super excited about having everybody that I have on. So I started off this week with Cody. Next week, I believe, is Keep It Techie. The week after that, I have Rachel Toback on the show. You don't want to miss that one. Like, she's freaking awesome. If you don't know who she is, just Google Hacker, CNN, and DEF CON. Like, she's awesome. And then I have Tanisha Martin and Rebecca from Black Girls Hack rounding out the month of May. And like I said, we're just going to rock out. So, Cody, thank you. Appreciate it. Pack, love y'all. See y'all. And I will talk to y'all next week.